number one thing that women of color, entrepreneurs, coaches, service providers need to hear?
We need to stop making decisions rooted in self-abandonment. The black girl magic, the brown girl magic, the white girl incredibles, okay? All the superheroes in the room. I think more of us need to retire our capes. I'm not saying you need to get rid of your magic, but this thought and this belief that many of us are holding to remain being the magician, everything, every ounce of success has to come by way of struggle seems like a common theme here. It's like, why is this so hard? It's like, why are we defaulting to the most difficult path of resistance to get to what we want? Granted, many of us have had to because of our circumstances, our environment, our upbringing, or whatever, but more of us need to retire our capes and save ourselves. Y'all are real good at saving everybody else, making everybody else feel comfortable, palatable, your language that you're using in your messaging, not wanting to rustle too many feathers. Fuck the feathers. Retire your capes and, just be your magic. You no longer have to be everybody's savior. And that's what I think more of us need to lean into, adapt, and flirt with a little bit more.
I want to talk about that in two parts. So when you're first building your business and when you're in a 9-to-5 job, you were in a 9-to-5 job, I think it's very easy to be like, okay, I have to struggle and I have to maybe hustle. I might have to put a lot in to get this momentum up off the ground. So what does retiring our capes look like in that season versus when you're scaling a business and you have more resources?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think looking back, I think there's a difference between like struggle and the intentional stress that comes by way of putting forth effort towards something. I think that's a very different dynamic. And I think it's important. I think your struggle will look different for everybody. I think a lot of it is, just the conversations we've been having here that I've been overhearing, the beliefs, the thoughts that we're holding on to. A lot of that stuff had truth to it. But it's asking yourself, is that true current day in my current circumstances? And I think that is a differentiator I wish I would have had more awareness on earlier, because I'm like, I have to work twice as hard to get paid half as much. I'm a black woman doing this. I'm going to get underpaid. Black women won't pay me. And I'm like, I think some of those things were true in different environments that I was in, but I'm applying a truth that's applicable to the situation that's new for me today, and I did not have that awareness. So I think yes, it will require effort. Yes, what you're doing will require work, but it's like, am I choosing the hardest path in order to get to the destination? Which I think by default, many of us will do. So I just want us to how can we get more awareness around that? Now, the second part of what's the question?
At the scaling level, what does retiring your cape look like at the scaling level?
Oh, man. I'm just recently a retired black girl magician, okay? So I'm experiencing that now. I think it's, I had this, I have to save everybody else mentality, primarily because how I grew up, I was the one in the family that had it all together, Nobody checked on Jerisha. Nobody checked on my grades. When I went off to school, there was nobody sending me money, even just asking, do you have everything you need? I'm like, y'all, I'm 17 out here. Yes, I need something. But nobody was calling and asking because they were like, we know she's good. And I think that because life experiences, I've had to put on the armor. I've had to put on the cape. And I realized that it's not my job to save anybody. And I think that before, my worth was very much rooted into how many other people can I save? And I'm like, that's control. That is not love. And I really had to release that it is, your problem is your problem, my problem is mine. I might be able to aid, support, or whatever, but I can't drag you along with me. And I think that's just, I think at the scaling level, retiring the cape is just you control your controllables. Learn how to regulate your own nervous system. You don't need to get activated and react to everything that's coming across your table. And just find the patterns of where I am thinking that my control is a form of love, when it's where do I need to release my, too many of y'all in here butt cheeks clenched, shoulders tight, jaw locked, because you're holding on because you are terrified of what will happen if you slow down. And I think at the scaling level, it's like learning how to surrender to the stillness and finding safety in that stillness has been what's been most true for me.
The safety piece, everything goes back to that.
Every single thing. I'm like, Brig, so much of it goes back to safety.
Safety and entrepreneurship can seem like oxymorons because entrepreneurship is full of risk and putting yourself out there, especially at like the visibility level. And so what does safety look like in entrepreneurship? And I think for me, I'm curious your thoughts, it's about groundedness. It's about being your own protector in a lot of ways. Yeah. And I think it's also answering your own questions first versus other people. So I'm curious, what does safety look like at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of self-trust. But when you historically have been in environments where trusting yourself did not feel safe, or I felt like I was very much living out of my body for majority of my life, how can I trust myself when I've been breaking promises with her for decades? And I think really redeveloping a relationship with myself in the sense of if I say that I'm going to do something, I started just as things as simple as I'm going to drink a glass of water. Okay, I said I'm going to go do it. Like, it's a super small thing, but I'm like, I needed to start in a small place to rebuild self-trust. And I think if anybody here has experienced sexual abuse or somebody violating your body, and there's been so many experiences in my life where I've just had to numb myself from my body. I might get a little emotional up here because it's still in the thick of a journey for me right now, but I think it's learning how to find safety in my body was a starting place for that, and really reconnecting with trusting myself again and that it's safe for me to be in my body. I don't need to escape my body in order to survive this moment. I think for me, that's where a lot of it has come back to, and so much beauty and love and abundance has flown from that place of self-trust.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Yeah, thank you. Can we get some?
Got a young thug crying up here.
We're 9 minutes in, y'all. Buckle up. This is so good. But I think to this point, like, where do we see like strong Black women get emotional, right? Like, this is like, again, what the word I used during breathwork was like sacred, right? So much of this is sacred. So thank you so much for sharing so vulnerably with us.
Yeah, thank y'all for creating this space. It's so beautiful, like that we get to be this way with each other and to truly feel seen in this space. So thank you for creating this. Yes.
Well, I think I needed it, right? I think I needed it. When I came into this space, I remember I had a white, amazing social work business coach. And I said, I want to actually like see other Black women. And she gave me actually 3 names. Oh my God, I didn't realize this, but she gave me 3 names. She gave me Tamasha, she gave me Jerisha, and then she gave me Topsy. And those 3 names were all that I had. And so I think too, like, I knew when I was a life coach at the time, I knew when I figured out business, this is what I wanted to create. I wanted to create people who look like me so I can like name other people other than 3 names. Yeah.
Thank you for remaining truthful to your, like, being obedient. I think obedience is such a big thing, but like, thank you for honoring and remaining obedient to the assignment that was placed on you.
And it's hard. It can be very, very challenging, yes. Amber and I are actually going to, and you talked about like selling to Black women. I want to touch on that. Amber and I are actually going to do a podcast on what does it actually look like to build an identity-based business where you are serving a particular identity. And one of the things that I have seen is I'm saying all this to say, so many of my clients, they also say, okay, I'm a Latina money coach. I'm a this coach. I serve this niche of an identity. And one of the things I've realized is sometimes that identity base can have higher expectations for you because you are so niche. Yeah. Like, that's something that I've had to wrestle with. And so with that, how do we follow our path in obedience, even when it's challenging, even when the expectations seem unfair? Like, what does that look like?
Ooh, child, ain't that like the $1 million question? I mean, I heard somebody else say this yesterday of like, God does not call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And I really do believe that, at least for me, my business has 100% been a spiritual journey. I always pray and ask God to speak to me in a way that I will understand. And he did that by way of a business. Like, that has been our vehicle of communication. So whenever I think all of us, you wouldn't be here if there was not some calling placed on you. And I think it can be very difficult to remember the original assignment, to be still enough to hear when the assignment changes. Because sometimes we be stuck on an assignment and it's, that ain't yours no more. Like he's calling you to be somewhere else. But I think having practice, regardless of what your religion is, your relationship with God, I think is so critical. If you don't believe in God, but your relationship with whatever that soft internal voice is, having practices in place for you to reconnect and hear that. I think so many questions have been coming up of how do I get there faster? How do I get that whatever? I'm like, ooh, you are running from something. What are you running from? What are you afraid to be still in? And I think that is where so much resides. And I think just reminding ourselves of everybody in here, I heard Steve Harvey say this, and I will never forget it, but you have a 100% track record of overcoming every obstacle that has been put in front of you. And raise your hand if that's not true. 100% track record. So what makes you think now, oh, you ain't got it? You have had to overcome so much in your life that is so much bigger than figuring out what hook you're going to put on a reel. Like, really think about that. Contextualize that. I can't be visible. You have overcome so much to get to this point. Whatever problem that is currently putting in front of you, if it feels bigger than what it is, that is the enemy. 100%. Trying to disqualify or make you forget what you are capable of. Like, y'all have overcome some shit. You can't figure out how to go do a video for 100 videos in 90 days. Y'all have given birth, damn it. Like, and y'all didn't die. Like, the likelihood of us not making it is high. Period. True. If you can give birth. I'm just saying, okay? I haven't given birth. And I'm like, but just think about how much you've overcome. And I think that sometimes we forget. We are moving so fast, we forget about how much we've already done, how much we're already equipped with. And I think sometimes you need to make an evidence list for yourself. Whenever I'm really, really like spiraling in doubt, and I'm like, God, I hear your assignment, but big dog, I'm not signing up for the task. I think you have called the wrong one. I told you I'm retired from this. Remove me off the list. And I have to, that's why I talk to God. I'm like, bruh, not today. And I'm like, I have to remind myself of why, he's calling me for a reason. Everything that you've endured is your preparation for the provision. So I'm like, I need to make my evidence list. And I think you need to do that sometimes. Why am I the most equipped for the calling that I feel like he's being invited me into? And make a list. Ask him to give me the evidence. Speak to me in a way I will understand. And that, when I think about callings and assignments, like that is what gets me through. And also just like finding external evidence. Like coming to this was very much a prayer answered for me. Because being in a new season, I'm like, I don't know what's next. And what I've gotten even from this is just like you have to be reminded of where you came from and how much you've already done. And like so many of you have done that for me this week. So that's how, it ain't easy. Assignments they're never meant to be easy. Yeah, no. What assignment is ever just, where has greatness ever been created from, like, the easy, comfortable task? Like, it's just, diamonds are not created, pressure is required. And I just think that I was talking to somebody else, and it's like, okay, when you start to feel that pressure, when is it time to move? It's like, there's always still a peace, I think, within that pressure, because it's what you're meant to be doing, efforts required, but there's still an essence of peace on your heart around it, so just continue to pursue it.
First, there's a book about You're the One for the Job by Jess Conley, and it's a Christian book for those who practice that religion, but it's really about breaking down how you're qualified from a biblical perspective. And so if y'all wanted to look at that book, it's one of my favorite books. And the second thing that I was thinking about as you were talking was, when I was at Duke University and had my racist boss and I had to commute and I had all of these really specific scenarios. Like they were very, very specific. And I was like, why Duke? Why the bus? Why this job? But now when I look at my business, I needed every one of those little points. Quit your racist job is my main marketing message. I also, when y'all are saying, I'm busy, I'm like, are you 3 hours on a bus busy? Right? Like, are you this type of busy? Because I lived it. Like, your lived experience, the challenges that you have right now are actually preparing you for where you need to be. And so I look back and I was like, I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do because of the obstacle, because of the challenge.
1000%.
That's so good. Awesome. We way off the notes.
I know. We
way
can get
off
back.
the
We can
notes.
get back. Okay.
Okay.
Gather us, DL.
Little. We plan to do that too. We plan to do that too. So what are the trends that we're seeing post-pandemic when it comes to selling in the coaching industry?
Yeah, I think it goes back to that the identity aspect. Pre-pandemic, I think selling that tough love, how-to, educational-based content worked very well. Post-pandemic, and just current day, I think more identity-based storytelling has been so effective. And because I think trust is there's just a trust starvation right now happening. A lot of consumers are way more discerning. Like somebody mentioned, was it Tamisha? They're not lazy buyers. They are discerning. They they have a much higher threshold of what is required for them to say yes. And I think, too, the other thing is really important to understand economic cycles. I'm not saying you need to go become an economist, but just understand, what is the market sentiment? It always goes up and down in waves. We are very much in an era right now where people, even if they have the money, they are holding on tight. Olive oil don't make no damn sense why it's so expensive right now. An avocado, like $3.99 in California. I'm like, it's ridiculous. And it's not necessarily they don't have the money. But people right now have an economic sentiment of fear for a lot of reasons. So it's like, okay, if that's the market we're in right now, pre-pandemic, even during the pandemic, we were very much in an economic swing of abundance and opportunity. Even though the world was shut down, but people was getting checks in the mail, people felt like they had access to opportunity regardless of what was going on. We are on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. So when you think about that and you think about how your marketing is, what am I doing in my messaging to reduce that perceived risk? And I think that is really, really important. And more of that identity-based storytelling is really doing what I'm noticing with clients and for myself is helping to reduce that perceived risk so that somebody feels more comfortable making a buying decision beyond just, yes, I like you. Yes, I respect you. Yes, I know that you can teach me these things. Yes, I've seen you help a lot of other people. But there is a higher threshold of that perceived risk to get them to actually pay. Once they do, I'm noticing similar to what you said, once they pay, they normally won't leave right now because that threshold is so high, it's gonna take a lot for them to go trust somebody else to buy.
Perfect. That's exactly what I think we've been talking about here. And something that you were speaking on the economic flows and ups and downs is we have what's happening in people's bank accounts and then their thoughts about it.
Yes.
And they're separate. Right? So
yes.
Yeah. And so something I've been realizing is in the pandemic, unemployment was higher than what it is right now. So many people still have their jobs, but they're scared because of what they're seeing in the media, what they're seeing in the news, or they know one person that maybe was laid off. And I think they're seeing the government shutdowns, the tech shutdowns, but they still have their job and they still have their income versus in the pandemic, literal businesses were closing, but they felt so abundant.
Yes.
And so I think that's interesting as well, where you have to look at people's thoughts and not just the reality.
Yeah, it's all about perceived risk. I think a lot of it is perception. Your ability to sell is what is the transformation that you're providing? What is the perceived value of that transformation in relationship to who that qualified individual is or is not? But so much of it is perceived risk, because even this fear that many people are feeling right now, some of it is real, but a lot of it it's fear. It's the worry of what could happen. It's not actually true for them right now.
I think because it's also perceived, you can change it.
1,000%.
And so I think that's something I want you all to know, you can change people's thoughts because it's not their 100% reality. You can actually overcome their objections, give more testimonials, articulate their exact thought or belief, and influence them to enroll.
Yeah, and I think one thing else that I'm noticing is just shifting the tone of voice in which you're doing it. I think also post-pandemic, there has been, I think, a lot more mental health awareness, more burnout, more shame, just more emotions coming up. And before, y'all follow me. Some of y'all in here follow me for a long time. I was very much hawk hustle. I'm giving it to you straight. Da 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 da. Like I'm talking to you like your black grandma, because I was raised by my black grandma. It was like hard, and I feel like that harsh tone is not as effective right now, because so much of my audience, like that tough, they need some softness. And I've adjusted the tone of my language. So instead of me speaking to you in a way that almost amplifies your shame, amplifies your insecurities, I'm speaking at a totally different tone. And that shift in tone, sometimes like you might be delivering the exact same message, but are you giving it, Simone, this is what you need to do, girl. Today is the day, da-da-da-da-da-da, versus like coming at a much calmer tone and adjusting the tone, it will land. Because when they're already afraid, you yelling at them, I'm just going, like, or it's just like I need something a little bit softer in tone for me to even open myself up to even listen to what it is that you have to say. So if some of your content right now is not fully resonating, look at what are different tonalities that I can use to apply this message and see if that lands as well.
How do we balance selling emotion, tone, with also the program promise? And I think I told you on our live video, I feel like you started the whole program promise thing. Like you were the program promise queen. So like, how do we balance the two?
There's still a promise. There's still an outcome. I think, again, more of this identity-based messaging and the approach is like, and you've been mentioning it here too, like the how I versus the how to. Or just how my client, I would just look at like, how can I do more storytelling in my delivery? And I don't know, I probably need like a niche example to be able to drive this home, but it's just more about like, how can I tell the story of the outcome and the promise and the result versus just like, here's this thing, buy my thing. Just where can we infuse more storytelling into the dialogue and call out more of those identity-based markers? And because you can still sell the promise without, screaming at somebody about it.
I think how we can do that too is say, storytelling. I was once where you were. I learned these things and I want to teach them to you. I think could be like a very specific way of like speaking to that tone and emotion while also having like more concrete things as well.
Yeah. And I think it's like going again, instead of doing the how to, how I did this with a client, describing the contextual experience of the moment versus, and I think Sam did a great job of this in her breakout session if you were in there. And I know, woo-woo! With some of the examples I heard her give, just even about the biracial kid, parent, boom, right over here. And, instead of just like, this is how you help your biracial kids like deal with whatever at school versus like my kid heard something on the playground and I wish I would have had a better answer. This is how I coached a parent on this, and this is how they were able to deal with maybe their 6-year-old that was dealing with racism in elementary school. Like, it's tell the story, contextualize the story to like that moment in time as a way to be able to connect the dots versus just going into like the tactical tangibles.
Details.
Yes.
Like that example is very, very detailed and small. Something I've been saying is like small stories sell big. Yeah. Like the smaller the story, the more detailed and intricate you can get, then that actually can connect with a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think like before, earlier years of business, like that level of storytelling wasn't necessary. Not to say that it didn't work, but it wasn't necessary to establish trust and reduce perceived risk to get the sale. Today, I feel like if you're only leading with like educational information, like I think too with the rise of AI, people can go get that from ChatGPT. Like pretty much every problem we solve to some degree, they can get a decent amount of information by asking. I call my ChatGPT Chad a lot of the time. I don't know why. I'm like, just channel that white man privilege and like give me some decent answers. But and I think about that, like information is just at in even more abundant accessibility. And it's like, how can I deliver this information in a way that a robot cannot do it? The only way you can do that is through contextual storytelling. And I think that's also why more buyers are really resonating with that. And especially too, you're dealing with sophisticated consumers. They're not dumb. Like they've been around the block, they've bought this stuff before, they've been burned before, they've experienced a lot, they have access to a lot. So it's like, how am I creating that connection and facilitating that transference of trust which is what you're doing in a sales conversation. And more of that storytelling really helps like evoke and move people along that sales journey.
So good, so helpful. With that, you are creating a brand new course called Market Like a CEO.
This is the first time I've ever created a digital course in 9 years that does not have some sort of coaching
Live
component
element.
attached. Yeah, no, never. So yes, this is new for me.
So exciting. Any other sneak peeks or elements that you can share when it comes to marketing in this current day and age?
Yeah, I wish I had a whiteboard. I would happy to.
Do you want to?
That's up to you.
Go, yeah.
This is probably something, I've been doing this work of messaging and what's in this course since the very beginning. But this is the first time it's been packaged in one digestible format. So I'm really glad to share it. Otherwise, you can't really get this anywhere else. Oh, hold on now. Now do it on the side. Do it where you good. Okay. I'm gonna take my heel. I know it's a kitten heel. We on the stage though. Okay. This is true across the board in like a lot of different arenas. But when I think about content and I think about more of this identity-based messaging and more of this storytelling, y'all are incredible. Look at your cameras out. But when people always ask me, okay, Jay, when I think about this identity-based messaging, how do I know what to say when? How do I know where my gaps are? And this is true in sales. This is true in content. This works across the board. But how do you identify the gaps right now? You're either having a will issue or you're having a skill issue. And I think these are two main buckets. So when we think about will versus skill as it relations to sales and messaging, it's like the sales conversation starts the moment someone consumes a piece of your content. So when you think about the sales journey from that perspective, not when I get them on a sales call, but the moment they consume something of mine or somebody drops my name, that sales conversation has begun. And it's like, what am I doing? What are those touch points that I'm creating to facilitate that transference of trust to get them ready to make a buying decision with me? So I want you guys to frame it in that. Is this clicking? Okay. So when I think about that, there's how do I move people through the stages of awareness and get them prepared to make that buying decision? When I think about perceived risk and how I reduce it, there's either a skill issue that's happening or a will issue that's happening that is preventing them from feeling like they can make a buying decision. If it's a skill issue, it's probably like, what is the actual principle of what I teach or what I'm doing? They may not understand like the actual concept. And this is where a lot of how-to content exists. The other skill issue that might exist is they do not understand the process. What is the actual how, like not like the how-to in the sense of like educational base, but what is the process that's going to be required in order for me to get this result? Most people stay heavily in the principle, maybe a little bit in the process when they're doing education, when they're doing content, and totally miss the will piece. The will piece, there's either a desire, which you cannot, you have no control over this. You cannot force somebody to want to have the desire to accomplish what it is that you want to do. A lot of y'all are probably in here trying to convince people to have the desire. Let them go. Remove your cape. Let them go. Elevate the sophistication of buyer that you are trying to attract. I don't know who I was talking to. Fran. Oh, I love that. Okay, fantastic. We'll circle back after this session, see where you landed. But many of us, and I did this in the very beginning of my business, I spent so much of my time here trying to convince somebody why they should want to make more money for themselves. That is not your qualified lead. Let them go. They have to have a desire. Just assume that you are only creating content for people who already have the desire for the solution that you provide. Not trying to convince people to have the desire. You have no control over this. The other will issue is belief. Belief might be either in you, like, are you the best person? Do my values align with who you are? Do I respect you? Have you gotten this result? Like, do I actually believe that you are capable of helping me get this result? The other piece is, and this is a big one, is do I believe in myself? And this is where I think a lot of people miss this in their content, is because they're hitting the principles. They got the process. You are overqualified, over-credentialed. You are the right one for the job. But you are not addressing the internal dialogue they are having with themselves, or why they do not believe that they are capable of getting the thing. And when I think about content and reducing that perceived risk, a lot of y'all are doing this on the sales call, and you are trying to pack all of this onto a sales call in an hour. It's like, and you're doing it for sure on your coaching sessions, but most of you guys are addressing a lot of this stuff privately. You are not putting it in your public content. Yeah. So it's not that you don't know, it's just when you start going public, you start whitewashing the shit out of your content. You start generalizing it, making it super generic, like you start getting way too surface level. And it's like, because y'all are not influencers, y'all are creating content as a way to facilitate these transference of trust touch points and to help reduce the perceived risk that a buyer feels as it relates to what it is that you sell. So it's like, these are the things that will reduce the perceived risk. And when you think about this and you just like reflect on your own content, where do you already know you have a gap in what's publicly available for your consumers? Is it more in the principle? Is it more in the process? Is it belief in you, or is it more than belief in themselves? Where do you guys feel like the gap is for you? Can we come, like, and it's like, how do I know what is blocking their belief? Like, sometimes you can start with what they're saying on a sales call. What are those things they're publicly disclosing to you on that call? Go create public content about it. Go ahead.
We call these client quotes.
There you go.
What are your client quotes? And not what you think they said or your interpretation, but what did they directly say?
Yes. And I think about these client, like, I don't know the framework of the client quotes,
Yeah.
but these client quotes, it's like, what quotes should you be paying attention to bring in public content? And that's a really beautiful one. So I think this is something that, I've been using this for years. I go more in depth on this in the new Market Like a CEO course. But I think that when you can understand this and just correlate that, my messaging's job is to create transference of trust and reduce perceived risk. And it's important for you to know, based off of who my qualified lead is, what do they perceive as risk? And in each of these areas, and how am I addressing that publicly in my content? So there's a bingeable effect. They can consume all of that before they even get on a sales call. By the time they get there, you're not putting all this pressure on your sales call or on your one launch to do the entire job of the sales cycle. That makes sense? Okay, well, thank you for letting me use the whiteboard.
Oh my God. Okay, let me ask some of the questions I know that they would have.
Yeah.
How much of which one should they be doing?
I think it depends on the caliber of how qualified the leads are you are currently attracting, and the objections that you are getting from those qualified leads on sales calls that's preventing them from buying. And I think that's where it always starts. Like, I think it's not like you could, if you're not getting sales calls right now, I would probably play in a mix of all of this. You got 100 pieces of content you got to do in 90 days, do 25 in each category, and just know that you're hitting it there. But if you're already getting sales calls, it's like, okay, what is how qualified are these leads once I get them on the call? What is my percentage rate of qualified leads? If you are like less than 60% of your leads are qualified on the call, you have a messaging problem, because you are attracting people who are unqualified. Your content, people are like, oh, they're all unqualified. Your content is doing that. Your current content is creating an audience of unqualified people. That is your problem. You created that because you created the content, or the lack thereof, your face right now. So yeah, I would say I would pay attention to how qualified my leads are and pay attention to what are those questions that they are asking. Every question is a potential objection. It's not maybe like a hardcore objection, but I would pay attention to what are those questions or hesitations they have and which bucket they fall into. And that following week or the next 2 weeks, that'd be the primary content I'd focus on creating.
How generous. Can we thank her for this? So generous. She did not have to do this. All right. This was so helpful and so good. Thank you, Jerisha, for this.
Thank you. Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having a whiteboard ready.
Oh, yeah. We tried. We learned from yesterday. While I'm getting back up in these shoes. I wanted to ask you just a small tactical question. Your decision to move towards carousels versus reels I feel like you're now like the carousel queen. What strategies could we use to have more engaging carousels? I know a lot of it you already spoke to. Yeah, but I'm curious.
I mean, the reason why I switched to carousels is before I was selling a program that had a very distinct promise. There was a very curriculum-based process. It was very tactical and tangible in nature, and it was all group programs. When I came back from my sabbatical, I'm selling private one-on-one. You are not necessarily selling a promise anymore. I'm selling a philosophy. And when you make that shift, even though it's both coaching, but again, perceived risk, when you get into how is this person approaching making a buying decision, it is different. So yes, there is an outcome that clients privately one-on-one want to get from me. But what is influencing their buying decision is not just what's this tangible thing you will help me get, because private one-on-one is not like here are your 17 spreadsheets, follow this exact formula, like never leave the track. But they're investing in like aligned identity. They're like, yes, I know I want to achieve this result, but I care very much about how I go about achieving this result. And they are, when you're selling, I'm also sell to more premium price buyers. When you're selling on the more premium end, you're solving a more sophisticated problem, you're dealing with a more discerning buyer. They are private action takers and silent decision makers. They are lurkers. They are hardcore lurkers. Half of y'all in here know me, and half of y'all have never publicly liked any of my posts. I mean, like, let's just keep it, but that doesn't mean that my content is not effective. Many of us are chasing like, whoa, how many likes did I get? I don't give a damn fuck how many likes I get on a post. I care about how many saves I get. I care about the quality of conversation that gets started most of the time in my private DMs as a result of that post. That is the metrics that I'm looking for. So because I know that I'm dealing with that type of buyer, with that type of discernment, more of that density is what helps them build that transference of trust. That's why I went to carousels. And I'm like, okay, I need to figure out how to shift to more of this identity-based messaging, how to shift to more storytelling. And I was like, I'm gonna just test it with carousels at the time. And it just kind of worked, so I just never tried to translate it over to video. I just kept sticking with carousels. So I like it because for that type of buyer, they will read. I'm still formatting it in a similar way that what a reel could be. That first page would be my normal hook. The following slides, I could literally read my carousels as scripts for reels. I'd probably need to tighten it up just a tad bit, but it's the same messaging. I could put it in a different format, but that's more so why carousels has been really effective. Also because I knew coming back, I'm selling to my existing audience. I'm not necessarily trying to sell to a cold lead. And I think that's also a big distinction. I'm like, my job when I came back from my sabbatical, I took a year off from posting, I took a year off from selling. And I'm like, okay, I need to establish a connection with my audience again. And I'm like, that's my only qualification right now. I just want to reestablish trust with people who already know me and my existing audience. And I'm like, I only need to fill 8 slots. I don't need to go viral. Interesting fact, I've only gone viral one time out of the 2,400 posts I've ever published. And it was 80,000 views. But I've never had like this massive virality. That's never been the case for me. But that's why carousels have been so effective, just because I'm aligning it with how my buyer is making decisions, and it's all storytelling based off of what we just talked about so far.
Amazing, amazing. I have seen so many social media influencers talk about the power of carousel. So if y'all are not putting that in your strategy, definitely make sure you're doing that. Speaking of your sabbatical, I wanted to pivot and talk about sustainability and significance. And so talk to us about the reason why you took a sabbatical. What did that look like?
Yeah, I think it was back in 2019. I met a really incredible couple when I was in Bali. And they were a family. They had 2 kids. I was out getting some little smoothie, and I just be chit-chatting with folks, and I'm just chit-chatting. What are you guys doing here? They're like, oh, we're on a year-long sabbatical. I was like, what is that? And they worked for some boarding school in upstate New York, and after you work for 7 years, you get a year off, and you still get paid. And they're like, we're traveling the world with our kids. And I was like, putting that on my goal board. And then I just started doing more research of like, what is the average time it takes for like the millionaire next door to become a millionaire? It's about 7 years on average. And also, I was seeing the pattern of what I noticed in like VC and private equity. When you acquire a company, you will typically buy it, try to grow it for 3 to 7 years. At 7 year, you exit, and normally those people who purchase will take a break for 2 to 3 years before they buy a new company. And at the time, I was asking myself, what is my exit strategy? And I was like, I don't think I'm gonna have a traditional sell. I don't think I'm gonna get rid of this thing. But in 7 years, what would be required for me to be able to take a year off? And that seed was planted in 2019. So it was always like a loose goal of mine. And just thinking about that question of what is my exit strategy. And I started a couple years in, kept kind of going, I'm like, oh, I get why people take a break after 7 years. Like if you're putting in the work, like that, I was hustle, money bag, reach, like I was sprinting marathons. Like my success in my business, it was like every year I doubled or tripled in revenue. It was very fast growth. Yes, it's beautiful. Yes, I'm deeply grateful for it. But no business is meant to be in a growth season like every single year. So I was like, okay, people keep saying 7 is a magic number. Let me like do whatever is required. I will sacrifice whatever is going to be required of me. I'm going to make as much money as I can in the next 7 years. And at 7 years, I'm going to give myself a choice to decide whether or not I want to take a year off. And probably like year 6, I was like, okay, year 7 around the corner, what you going to do? I was like, I don't know. I felt a lot of resistance in slowing down. Because I'm making so much money. Like, I think around that time when I was on Claire's podcast, I had done $1 million in profit in 1 year. Profit. Oh my gosh. I'm like young thug from the suburbs of Detroit, baby. Oh my, it was bananas. It's still bananas to think about that happened. And I started testing every department of my business for what level of owner, like what is the furthest place we can get in every department with the least amount of owner dependency. So I did like an 18-month test. I tested, okay, there's 3 different options of what a sabbatical could look like. I could just like get rid of every single client and not serve anybody. I could maintain the clients that we have other team members support it, but we don't do any active selling. Or we could continue to deliver and actively sell. So I ran a couple of tests in the business. I had my team manage the entire launch without my involvement, all the pre-launch, current launch stuff. I didn't normally do launches, but I'm like, okay, if we have a team doing it, somebody's gonna have to facilitate it. That was such a good test. They did $256,000 cash in 1 month. Girl, I was right. I was like, and I want to take a break. Shit, no, they can do this. Like, woo! Because I didn't think that was possible. Like, I'm like, yes, I know I can have support. Yes, people can do sales for me, but I've never had my team run the entire thing for me. So they did that, and they crushed it and killed it. And we had program coaches for years, but I think as I got closer to the 7-year mark, my body was like, I want 0 cognitive load on. And I'm very grateful for the decisions that I made. And I think Gina's session, like so many of us, and what happens in this space, what happened with most people who come in, and I'm new money, okay? New money. Happens with athletes, it happens in all these other industries. As you come into money and you don't know how to manage it, you are going to mess up. But most people blow all that money so quickly. And I think one thing I'm deeply grateful for, and I think about sustainability for me, is really just rooted in options and choice. And at that 7-year mark, I was very good at how I managed my profit. And I was like, you can take a year off without changing an ounce of the quality of your life. Like, so I kept feeling afraid of slowing down. I'm like, what are you actually afraid of? You can afford it? And I'm like, I was living in La Jolla. It's expensive as fuck. And people talking about this soft girl life. My soft girl life is expensive. Like, I'm like, you don't have to change literally a thing about how you move through this world. Why are you resisting allowing yourself to have a break? It's just, I've never had one before. Since I was probably 6 years old, I've been like a little adult in my household. So it was a gift I really wanted to give myself. I think it was an act of self-love. Even though there was a part of me that didn't believe I was worthy of it, even when I gave it to myself. But that's really what contributed to it. I'm like, I know, yes, I'm hustling. It was an intentional season of hustle. I'm like, I'm in my 20s, and then, tapped into 30. I'm like, you got stamina right now. You got buoyancy and bounce back. You can not sleep for 3 hours, only sleep for 3 hours multiple days in a row and be able to get back in action. Girl, you ain't gonna be able to do that when you're 36, when you're 42. Like, leverage. I heard enough of my clients tell me, like, girl, use your energy while you got it. I'm like, all right, girl, I am. Like, so all of that very much influenced it. But I'm like, that pace, nobody's supposed to be in a growth season not that type of growth. Like, healthy growth for a business is what, 10, 30% in most industries? I mean, I'm growing 100% year over year. Like, that's not sustainable long term. And I think when I got my head out of this online industry, because I think this space specifically will make you feel like you are a failure if you did not double your revenue in a year. Like, oh, you only made an extra 20, like, at least, I don't know if people are like legitimately saying that, but like, that is absolutely the feeling I had when I would go into masterminds or I would share my number. And it's like, oh, you thinking too small. I'm like, you didn't even ask for no context. Like, I don't think it never felt like it was enough. But that was all the things that kind of influenced why I chose to take the sabbatical. And then when I chose to stop, God was like, girl, finally you sat down. I'm like, God, that was a little ghetto how you choose to play that out. But I'm like, the moment I chose to slow down, every form of unhealthy masculinity in my life got uprooted back to back to back. Because I was fine. Like, I'm like, I feel like God is so graceful because he was like, I'll wait to do this work on you until you're ready. And he's so good and generous. But I was like, I ain't waiting that long again. I don't want all that at one time. It was too much. I mean, but you can handle it. But that was what influenced the sabbatical. And then after the sabbatical, I got divorced. My father passed away. And I feel like a lot of my relationship with my unhealthy masculinity and how that presented itself in business, all of that was reworked.
Again, I just want to thank you for your generosity and sharing all these things. Can we clap? Thank you. Something I said earlier is safety is options. And the options to pull back, and even just looking at all the different types of sabbaticals you had, and like all the different options rather, and the choosing intentionally the one that you wanted and testing out different options. I think for me, as you were talking, I was like, oh, I've maintained my income for the past 3 years. Like, I've been like 1.6, 1.1, 1.2, and I haven't wanted to grow. And I think I shamed myself for a while, especially, I think you can relate to this as a business coach, like I need to da-da-da-da. But listening to it's like, I'm actually approaching my 7 years, and I'm like, I think this was just natural, right? It's a natural cyclical process.
Yeah, I think the benefit of us running these businesses is how high the profit margins are. It's like most other industries, drug dealers don't have our profit margins. I mean, like, for real, strippers do not have our profit margins. Like, I think we've been talking, I know. I watch a lot of like drug dealing and cocaine TV shows and movies. That's like, but they don't have the margins we have. Like, that biggest kingpins doing maybe 37%, 34%. Like, and that's a, what's her name from Netflix? Homegirl down in, what's her name? Something Griselda. Even her profit margins weren't as good as ours, and baby girl was doing the damn thing. But I think that we think about, like, how do we invest? Your business is your primary asset. There is nothing else you can invest in that can throw off the profit margins that your business can do. The stock market will not, you can profit 60% in a year. The stock market ain't gonna do that. Drugs ain't gonna do that. Most other industries and business models will not do that. I say that, but y'all won't forget this, though.
1 second. Content warning.
Content warning.
I don't want no emails. Warning. We talk about drugs, sex, lots of things over this conference. Every speaker I have is talking about drugs or sex. Content warning.
I know, but y'all gonna remember it, though. Y'all remember the third leg, and y'all remember. We're just trying to help every individual leave with a memorable moment. Cultural context, okay? So when I think about that, it's like, okay, if this asset that I'm creating is the highest profit margin asset that I have available to me, then how can I leverage the profit of that business to create my own version of an exit? And I think, because yes, any business owner, you might get acquired. Most business owners will run at not a profit, barely paying themselves for 5 or 7 years until they get acquired. And when they get acquired, that's their big payday. We are in a very fortunate place where you can make enough profit to support a beautiful quality of life and still have some to invest outside of your business, to invest in whatever other investment vehicle that you want. But I think it's a choice that we started this businesses for freedom and options and choice, and that we get in here and the industry, whoever we're surrounded with, there's pressure gets created. But I think it's beautiful. Like, why not create a maintenance business? Like, if it's throwing off the type of profit that you want, and I think you need to know, why are you growing for? Like, if you were growing so that you could maybe get acquired, or that there needs to be a reason why. Just growing for the sake of more goes back to safety. Many of us are growing to try to prove something to, I don't know whom, but there's a part of us trying to prove our worth, prove our value, prove we're capable. But yeah, I think that's a choice, and it should be a choice.
I think, too, one of the questions that I asked myself a little too late that I wish I asked as soon as I quit my job was, okay, DL, you're full-time. Now what? Because so many of us, we do all of this to be full-time, and then we get there, and if we're not strategic, we can waste years of profit, of opportunity, and not funneling money where we want it to go. And so as soon as you are full-time, you then need to say, okay, I'm now a full-time entrepreneur. What's the next stage of my business? Yeah. Do I want to maybe buy another business? Do I want to merge a company? I'm thinking about buying a few different brands. Yeah. Do I actually want to pivot into product, but I want to build an audience first? I want to get paid to build that audience by way of having a coaching business. Like, there's so many options. And I think as women of color, like, we just got to get there. And then we stay there. And then often, because we're not strategic, we go back. Yeah. If we're not careful, we'll go back because we're just not intentional.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us, like, we just don't know. I mean, like, we're not exposed. We don't know what even the options are on the table. But I do think, like, when you do quit, just be very mindful of, what am I doing with my profit? Because business, like, everybody be getting in business, I want to make more money. It's like, yes. And also, like, what are you making more for? And sometimes people will be making more money. I think might have been Simone too telling this. I was at a mastermind event early days in business, and first year I went, I made my biggest year yet. It was like $330,000. I was in there walking in all juicy and proud of myself. Homeboy, I don't know his name, John, Tom, Chad, something like that, sitting next to me. And he was like, oh, how's it going? What'd your business do last year? I did $330,000, bruh. What about you? He's like, oh, yeah, we did that last month. I was like, damn. And I was like, okay, let me sit with myself. I came back the next year. My business was doing that was a big possibility, belief buster for me. But the next year I came, this is where another belief got busted. I did maybe $850,000 in revenue, took home about $500,000, like after expenses and taxes and all of that. And met the same guy again. The question the host asked was, what is everybody's profit? I made more in profit than that man did. And I mean, but I think we can get so distracted by the revenue, and it's like, you guys are doing this for a lifestyle business. Many of us are not. Yes, some of you guys will exit, and some of you guys, that may be the choice. But most of us are doing this because of the quality of life we want to provide for ourselves, for our kids, for our family. You are running a lifestyle-based business. If you're running a lifestyle, like, this is where it goes back to, you have to know what your owner's intent is. Is my owner's intent of this company to sell? I would operate it totally different. I'd be okay with smaller profit margins. I'd be okay with different things because it'll be more appealing to a buyer when it comes time. But if your owner's intent is to grow your personal net worth, y'all need to start claiming that. Like, I'm doing this for my personal net worth. And I think that when you own that, you'll start to operate in that needs to be the filter at which you make every decision in your business, through your owner's intent for the season that you are in, because your seasons might change. You know, like, for this, up until now, your season might have been this. You say, I might want to acquire some companies. You might choose to launch something new or remove certain aspects to preserve some more profit so you can go acquire another company. Like, your seasons will change. But you need to know what your owner's intent is for this season, for when that season, how long you want that season to last, and really design the operations of your business to support that intent. My intent has always, and I don't know when it will change, but will continue to be, to build my personal net worth, period. But many of us don't we don't ask ourselves like that question. We don't ask ourselves, what is my exit strategy for this season? What is my owner's intent for this season? So all we know to do is just make more. But we don't know what we're making it, like where it's going to and why. So I think it goes back to your question, if I'm full-time, now what? Start to ask yourself, what is my owner's intent? Because some of y'all don't need to quit your job. You know, some of you guys might have a good job. Things are kind of going well. You're happy and satisfied. But the owner's intent of this business right now is like, I'm using all this profit to pay for my kids' private school and to invest.
Mine was to be debt-free. That was my first goal.
Yeah. And I think but you need to name what that is for you. And when that next season comes to, you know, can allow it to evolve. The other thing too is around investments is you also need to know what your investment philosophy is for your life and for your household. There are so many different investment vehicles. You need to know how active you do or do not want to be and be okay with that. My ex-husband, he was a hedge fund manager, came from private equity, high finance world. His investment philosophy and risk tolerance was, he grew me a lot in that area. I'll forever be grateful for that exposure. But it taught me a lot about, like, there's different forms of investment vehicles. And again, for your capacity, for your season, what is your investment philosophy? And you may have no idea right now what the answer to that is. That needs to be homework. Like, start to explore what are all the different investment vehicles that I may have interest in and what's required of that. That doesn't mean you need to go spend money, like, acquiring the asset today, but go learn about what those different assets are. You know, even investing in real estate through, like, it's losing me now, where the syndicates or whatever, REITs, you could invest in REITs. I want to get in real estate, but I don't want to actively manage property. Okay, you can give money towards REITs. I had a couple opportunities like that came across my table. Okay, that's one option. I would get on the calls just so I could learn about the opportunity, because, girl, ain't nobody talking about no REIT in Detroit. Like, not that I had exposure to. I'm like, what's a REIT, girl? You know, but just put yourself in the, learn those things. I did acquire property, California, the property I bought in La Jolla. That was probably the only property I probably will keep and manage, just because of how property moves in California, the speed at which it appreciates. You have to have a lot of money to get one. But when you do, it blows my mind. I'm like, California is its own bubble. So I know for me, I'm like, if I do acquire property, I'm okay with buying property in high appreciation areas in, like, vacation destination locations. That's very specific. I was also at a mastermind, and a guy, not the Tom Chad guy, but another gentleman that was also there. I'm like, how do entrepreneurs retire? He was like, I buy a property every single year in a low income area. By the time 30 years pass, I have a portfolio of 30 properties. Every property was $100,000 to $180,000. We were okay. That was his investment philosophy. I know. I'm like, yeah. And I think that it's getting the exposure. You don't even know it's an option. People just say real estate, and it's like, well, there's every version you could be doing it. So in real estate, you may not want to be an active investor. Your business might be the only active investment that you want to have, because it is an asset and is an investment. I know now I don't want nothing else active, child. My business is the only active thing I want. So for me, that's, now I have that property. My fiance has a property. Like, we might acquire more, but my investment philosophy now is my business will remain active. Everything else will be brokerage account, stock market, that type of thing. So you just need to, like, I'm just laying this out here because somebody else asked me these questions right around the time I was making $300,000 a year in revenue. That was about maybe 150, 180 grand in profit. It was a little, I felt like the dumbest person in the room, but it was the right question because it seeded me to start looking for different answers.
So good, so good. And I'm thinking so much about Gina, right? And like actually making wealth accessible for all of us and teaching us. Amazing. We are way off our questions, but I want you all to be able to ask questions. So can we give it up for Jerisha?
Thank you, guys.
I have maybe I'm going to do 5 questions. Oh, the 5 are already up. Great, perfect.
I will be around. I ain't going nowhere tonight. So please feel free to come up to me and ask any questions or slide in my DMs. I'm the only one managing them now. So I'm available and accessible too.
Thank you.
Hey, Simone girl. Hey.
So this is a market research question. Mm-hmm. So, I've been following you for years, not just your business, but also when you came back from your sabbatical, you said you had a divorce. Yeah. But you also shared with us you have a fiance. Yeah. So that means as an entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur, a busy one who has a lot of things going on, like you decided that I divorced, but I'm also going to try this again. Yeah. So I'm very curious, was it something that you stumbled into after the divorce, or was it something that you were very strategic about? Did you have the consciousness of, I want love again and I'm going to find it, or, oh, I didn't know he was coming?
Oh, it's such a good question. I've always known that I wanted to be a mother. I've never felt safe allowing that to happen. Just some context, you guys don't know my story. I found this out just in the last 2 years. But my mom had married my dad when she was maybe 16 or 17. She had both me and my brother before she was 19. She left when I was 2. I met her again when I was 25, just for some context. I left my dad in middle school, my grandmother, his mom, my grandmother, and my aunt raised me thereafter. I did not know what good mothering looked like, but that was one boundary I've always, and I'm really proud of myself for never wavering on that. I knew what kind of mom I knew what kind of environment I would never choose to bring a child into. Now, I can't control once they get here, but I'm like, if I have a choice on when I allow a child to come out of my womb and into this world, I will be very intentional. That should have been a red flag, because every man I've dated, I've never felt safe having kids with them. And I'm like, well, I didn't connect that dot until a little bit later. That should have been a major red flag, but that's a lot of other stuff. So when I think about the intentionality, I've always held firm on that belief. And I think just in full transparency, that is one of the layers that contributed to why we made a decision to separate. Because I'm like, I do want to be, I'm either going to choose to remain your partner. And if I do choose that, I'm going to choose to not become a mother. And that was a choice. I think we always have choices. I evaluated the consequences of that. I thought through the trade-offs of that. That wasn't the only determining factor of why we chose to get divorced, but that was a big one for me. And afterwards, I took a grief, self-love, and healing course. I thought that was just for the divorce. I'm like, oh, baby, no, you've been avoiding grieving for a very long time. I didn't really have a relationship with grief. When I started taking that course, I was like, it cracked me open. Because I'm like, there's so much grief I've buried under the rug for decades and outran it through my success and my performance. It worked well. I was very effective outrunning my grief. I think it's why it contributed so much of me making millions. Not sustainable, though. You're human. You will crack at some point. So I think that once I started that journey and really started to unpack some of the stuff I needed to grieve and work through, that desire, though, to be a mom, that desire to have the quality of love I knew I was worthy of receiving and experiencing in partnership with somebody else never went away. I mean, I think that was also, again, in full transparency, that stuff me and my ex talked about. We wanted that for each other. We just knew that this probably wasn't going to be the place to do it for the rest of our lives. So yes, I've always known. Probably a couple months after, when the timing of things is a little bit tricky just because California makes you wait 6 months, even though we didn't have no kids. We knew before we filed, that type of thing. But a couple months after we initially filed, I'm like, okay, you're not going back. You're not going to just stay stuck here. You have to do something to put you forward in forward momentum. And I've never been on the dating apps. You hear the most reckless stories of what's happening on these dating apps, but I'm like, you're not going outside. You need to do something. And my only goal when I got on the apps was just have fun. Remember what it's like to be desired. Just go have fun with another human being. I didn't know that apps could be free. I downloaded every single app in one night. It was a Friday night. I had my ice cream. I had just made myself some mac and cheese. I was, Annie's. Okay, I've been upgraded from Kraft. And I'm like, okay, you're not going back. You're not going to stay stuck. You need to do something. You just need some sort of forward momentum. I downloaded every single app. I paid for every single app. We had not yet disconnected our Apple accounts. I know.
Oh, my God.
Are y'all connecting that dot? I was so embarrassed. I'm embarrassed admitting this out loud. I've said this in private conversation. I did not know I would say this publicly in front of all y'all and on camera. Hi. We just broke the fourth wall, you know? He texts me saying, hey, I think our credit cards are still linked. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I've updated the credit card. I apologize. So embarrassing. Paid for every single app. I went on 3 incredible dates with 3 incredible men. The third date was with my fiance. And then I deleted the app, so I didn't renew all those $248 worth of subscriptions. But I didn't know, I didn't go with this intent of like, I need to meet my husband. But I did so much work on like, Jerisha, you need to learn how to trust yourself again with men. Because I think the same advice I gave you guys of stop making decisions out of self-abandonment, majority of the decisions that got me to that place was because I abandoned myself. And I'm like, when I date again, what is it? I want to know what it's like for me to date in full embodiment. When I'm choosing me, when I'm choosing them. So it was always a desire, and that desire never left. And I'm so like giddy and grateful, and I can't wait.
You should. Yes, thank you. And I just want those of y'all who are like sitting back, I'm like, possibility.
Yes.
Be devoted to the desire.
Yes. And remember, I think sometimes too, we can lose faith in even having desire. Many of us are just working. Where is their pleasure? Where is their play? Where is their like that connectivity to what your desire is again? Many of us, I didn't play. I didn't have hobbies. I'm like, it blew my mind. I'm like, y'all doing this and not making money from it? I'm like, you just have a podcast to just express your opinions? Like, mind blown. I was so out of my body, though. So disconnected from desire. Hey, Fran.
Okay, so I wanted to make you proud. I updated my Instagram bio. It's not live. So I wanted to read it to you to see if it made sense.
Let's go!
And I just wanted to give everyone who stopped by me to say, are you okay? I'm okay. I was encouraged. And so listen, okay. So it says, you're not the help, you're a CEO. I built a 6-figure agency and sold it. Now I teach VAs how to build an agency from scratch. Your CEO era starts here.
Talk your shit, girl. That's so good.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you, for like being so encouraging. I really thought I was just going to be another little black girl in the crowd, but y'all have all helped me and my little autistic ass just be here.
Go, friend!
Can we also give it up for Kirsten? Kirsten also helped her so much. Yay!
Oh, so good. You go, girl.
That was so good. So good.
Hi, thanks so much. So my question is, I am a coach with nonprofit executives, and I teach them how to fundraise. And I have all the content, I have a podcast, I have all the things. So the trust transference thing, I feel like I've got it locked in, but the problem is when I'm on the sales calls and they're excited and they want to do it, they have to take it to their board. And their board is often like, nope. Even if it's like, they're not raising money, so what you gonna do if you don't have someone who knows how to raise money? Yeah. So my question to you is, how do you negotiate this like multi-level sales when the decision maker is not the one that you're actually talking to?
I think that's a really good question. I think it's true even for those of you guys who sell offers to like for the kid, but the parent is the buying the decision maker. Mm-hmm. It's like you've nailed the person that will be facilitating it, but it's like all that effort, maybe at least now 30% of your effort is like, how are you doing all those things now for the decision maker? Do you understand? This is where qualification might kick in. Mm-hmm. Is like, because different nonprofits might have different caliber of boards. Mm-hmm. And those boards, you know, you might notice from one type of nonprofit organization, their board is going to make decisions maybe particularly one way versus a different type of nonprofit, their board is going to make a decision a different way. Mm-hmm. But I think it's like, how can you get more of that insight? And even how can you get that decision maker on the call faster and sooner? Because even if your content is doing a good job of getting the nonprofit leader to at least go bring it to their board, it's like you're now transferring you're now putting it on that nonprofit leader to go do the selling for you. Mm-hmm. So either how are you equipping them to be able to sell to their board without you in the room? I think this is also very true when people get the spouse objection. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh my God, girl, I love you. It's a vibe. I'm like, this is for me. You go to your husband and be like, it's a vibe, honey. It's $23,000. Like, I want to do it. He's like, girl, what the hell? Like, So, and I think, but most people, when they're really excited, they don't know how to then re-articulate that value to the decision maker.
Right.
So one thing that you could do is either, okay, now you got this person on the call, they're super, super psyched. Before you get them off the call, I would ask, okay, now what are all the questions your board is going to ask you? And they're gonna be like, well, that's a good question. Is maybe our budget, it's not at the right time fiscally in the season. They might ask, whatever they're gonna ask. Get them, pull out the information on those questions while you're on the call, and then almost, I don't want to say coach them, but kind of prepare them of like how, this is what you need to go say back to them to get them on board. So that's something that's worked really well from, again, the spousal objection, like you train them on how to articulate that back to them. Or other thing I used to do back in the day is I would record a Loom video. I would get all the questions. Okay, I'm not going to trust Sally to go back and articulate this to whomever for me. Sally, I love you, girl. Can't wait to work with you, but you can go back with vibes and energy, and they want to understand tangible value.
Right.
I'd record a Loom video saying, hey, Sally and John. And I would talk to John in my Loom video. And I would answer all the questions she told me that he was already going to have.
Got it. Yeah.
And I would articulate how this is not only beneficial for her, but beneficial for their household. And it would be a 5-minute Loom video, 7-minute Loom video, and there was never a time I didn't convert after that. John would be like, Sally, girl, you ain't come to a call. You need to start doing this work she told you to do. John is on board. And I think that when you don't have that access, it's just how can you then create that connection, or how can you prepare Sally or whomever to go back to the board to articulate that. But that Loom video has been that works every single time for me.
That's great. Thank
To
you.
that point with the husbands, I have done sales calls with the husbands so many times. They will ask better questions than the person. And so don't be afraid to say, bring them on. Bring them on. It'll run the same. I'm curious though, do you position yourself as a coach or a consultant?
That's a good question. I position myself as a coach.
So I have a nonprofit background. I used to work at NAMI, North Carolina. And so
I know NAMI.
Yeah, so something that I would recommend, I've had many different conversations with folks who are working in nonprofits, is you have to position yourself like a consultant, because that's what they're used to investing in the nonprofit world. And also, it's not that you can't sell like a coach, but I would position it like a consultant. So the traditional funnel of content, sales call, client has typically not worked when we're doing corporate contract work or consulting work. It's more proposal.
Right.
You gotta wait, right? Following up. And then that proposal will be sent to the board and they'll discuss during their next financial meeting.
Right.
And so also you might have to shift your selling business model to be more in the corporate space versus the launch-based coaching space as well. So all of those differences matter.
Okay. That's good. Thank you.
Yeah, great question.
Martha.
First of all, I use skill gap versus will gap with my clients, so that was really exciting to see here in a different context. I'm an ADHD coach. I have ADHD. A couple of us here do.
Just a few?
Just a few.
Just a few?
I am talking a lot about ease versus easy. So going back to what you were saying in the beginning, it's really hard work, but I'm really trying to get, especially women with ADHD, to the point where they see it can be hard work, but you can still do it with ease. And I feel like that just kind of feels like a vibe. So I'm looking for a more, how do I sell that?
When you say women with ADHD, okay, we're in a room with a lot of that. How would you then qualify what's one layer of qualification that's true about the woman that you work with ADHD?
They're struggling.
That's also true for everybody in here with what?
The reason the ease and easy resonate so much because it's that woman feels like everything is hard, even the shit that's easy for other people.
But what is the shit?
Household stuff, parenting, getting to work on time, keeping the job, doing
Which one of those things is most pertinent, or the first problem that you typically work with them on?
Household or parenting.
So I think, how can you contextualize it to that maybe moment in time of so the ADHD, when you say ease versus easy, what are the objection that you're getting on a sales call from a qualified lead? Or where in the process are you noticing the resistance with this?
It won't work for me.
And when you ask why specifically?
It's too hard. It's all too hard.
Yeah, I mean, I would try to just, where can you contextualize? If I'm this, a lot of what you're probably saying, or show I've been testing these, people with my messaging course coming out, I've been testing hey, here are 3 different accountants, 3 different niches, totally different messaging. And sometimes it's like I hear what you're saying, but I don't understand how to connect the dot of what you're saying. And I could see you doing content that's like for the ADHD, you said parenting and household chores is hard for them. Can you give me like one more layer, like within parenting, like where's the challenge?
Give a detail. What's like something specific?
Overstimulation is one of them, or like kid discipline, or like the house is just a fucking mess. And like I feel like this high performing professional, and like I can't get the laundry done and the sink is full, and so my husband and I fight about it, and then I snap at my kids. And that's all because I'm overstimulated all day, every day.
Yeah, I feel like you saying more of the context is going to be really important for you to like place them in a moment in time. Because it's like, yes, I hear that it can be ease, but I'm like, girl, they don't believe that because you're not dropping into a specific moment in time either.
Okay.
And I could see that you got a VP title, but your dishes have been in the sink for the last 4 days. Like, and then you could show a before and after of like, this is how a woman with ADHD without learning the tools to address her overstimulation. This is what this looks like. This is what it would look like if she was properly, I don't know the opposite. Supported, yeah.
Regulated. Yeah, nourished, all of that.
And I could see you doing some before and afters, but also I would just get like going back to the contextualize the moment versus like ease versus easy. Like describe it in a specific scenario versus just like labeling it generically. Yep. And I would just try to find multiple specific moments in time and like just drill down a little bit more in your content.
Right, just do that over and over and over again.
Yeah, but just pick different moments.
Yep.
Use your own life too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Use your own life. Like I know you do a lot of. I always mess it up. It's the play.
Fair play.
Right? I think you should also like talk about how you use that in your own life. Like in your own marriage and your own parenting. That will help you get really detailed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like what happened Tuesday night? What happened Wednesday morning? Like think about it that way.
Those usually, perform well.
Right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us, we just don't.
Strange.
We get way too high level, and most of us forget to like contextualize the moment. Like every post should just speak about one moment in time, not like versus how do I kind of reach it? Like how do I grab everybody in this one post? You putting too much pressure on this one post to do too much. Like, and you're gonna get way more results with the Tuesday night. I came home from a board meeting managing $2 million, and I can't get my fucking dishes together in my kitchen. Like. I should know how to do this, and like the shame they might be feeling, the rage they might be feeling, like articulate that through the storytelling, but just like pick a moment in time, one like contextual experience.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Hi. So my question is more about your sabbatical. It seems like you did a lot of healing during that time, and I was wondering, what was your relationship with pleasure and fun during the sabbatical and after, perhaps?
I mean, it's still been good. One of the
Content warning.
I know. Miss, I won't say it again because content warning. But one of the things I did, I was so disconnected from my body and from pleasure. One of the first. Because I'm still like my little productive. I'm like, one of the first projects I gave for myself is like, how can I give myself the childhood I wish I had? Aww. And that opened up a world of like possibility and curiosity for me. I'm like, what are all the things I wish I would have been able to do as a child? Yes. Or what are the things I used to love doing when I was a kid? And how can I like build that into, because I had nothing but time. You wake up, you got the whole day. I'm like, I can't keep running away from myself in work. Which was very uncomfortable for the first 3 or 4 months. But that was one of the things. And one of the things that came up in that is I've always wanted to have like a dance recital. I never danced when I was a kid. We didn't do none of that. I know, I was so sad about it. But what I did as an adult, because you have money and resources, I can make choices for myself, is I signed up for a sensual floor play class. Wow. It was 8 weeks long, and at the end of the 8 weeks, there was a showcase performance. Aww. So who knew my first dance recital would be in red lingerie and some 7-inch stripper heels?
We love it.
But that was huge for me. Not only like being able to, So I'm like, where can I do a dance recital in my 30s? Like, and it exists, you know? And when I saw that, I was like, don't ignore it. I'm like, this is crazy uncomfortable. I was way overdressed for class for the first like 3 or 4 weeks. And even that, like that experience was so healing. Because I had never been in a room with so many women of just like body positivity. And girl, I don't care what side, them girl, child, woo! I mean, it was just such a beautiful experience. And then performing, my girlfriends came. They flew in from Michigan to come watch me perform. And it was like a big thing. But that unlocked so much for me. The other thing with pleasure is I'm like, how can I romanticize the tiny little moments of my life? If there is something in my house I do not love, it is going. Down to my drawers, my socks, my silverware, my cups that I drink my juice out of. Like, I started to romanticize every little thing that I interacted with. So that was something that was kind of a fun thing, just like noticing what I love, what I don't love, and then the joy of like, I got to go find a new mug. I don't know, like, and then every time I would drink from that mug, it would just be so delicious and juicy, like, and so I think like that's like a little thing as well. And then just I started doing solo dates with myself.
Yes.
So that's like I'm something still actively doing. The romanticizing stuff is something I'm actively doing. But I do solo dates with myself normally like at least 2 times a month. And it's like I get to play in my creativity again. It's like I was on a coaching call probably like maybe 6 months before my sabbatical, and the host asked like, hey, like kind of it's just like a warm up. Hey everybody, how's everybody doing? What do you guys looking forward to this summer? And I broke, because I'm like, I have nothing that I'm looking forward to this summer. And I felt so much, I'm like, there's nothing you're looking forward to. All you got is just more work that you're looking forward to. And that really shifted something in me too. And I'm like, okay, there needs to be something on my calendar every month that I'm just looking forward to that has nothing to do with money, has nothing to do with work. So I just heard that, Tina Knowles about to go on her book tour. I know, right? I just saw that at 2 o'clock in the morning on the first night here. And I'm like, Keke Palmer gonna be interviewing her? I'm about to go buy tickets. It's next Friday. Wow. And I'm like, just how can you, that's another way of pleasure. Like, it doesn't have to be, a book tour or whatever, but just like, where are you taking yourself on solo dates? I would say at least once a month. Like, it is just for you. And it's just for your pleasure. It is just for your desire. So I would take like calligraphy classes. I've taken an embroidery class. I've taken cooking classes. Like, I love arts and crafts as a kid. So I'm like, well, give yourself an art program for the next 12 years. Like, I really got into flower arrangements. So I make myself a floral arrangement once or twice a month now moving forward. So like, those are things how I connected with pleasure then, and like how I'm still doing it now.
Yes.
How did you enjoy the cooking class? I did a 12-week one. It changed my life.
12. See, now I'm looking for something more long-term. So I'm like, okay, you come in here for 2 hours. Like, no, if I'm going to commit, I like to.
And they had a curriculum in it, and you learn knife skills.
Yeah,
it changed
I really
my life.
want to do something like that. Like, I've been looking to see if they have one like in Italy. Like, I don't know. I'm just like, I've been looking. I want to do something more like that, because I didn't cook before. I was like, who got time to cook? I went to Qdoba. I made noodles, marinara sauce. Wow. And I would eat out at certain points. I had chefs or whatever, but like, I did not cook. I used to blame my grandma, because, she'd get out my kitchen. She was retired. You wake up, breakfast is done. You come home from school, dinner was done. Get out my kitchen, she fussing. But I also learned how to cook on my sabbatical. I'm like, I can't throw down. I don't know how to cook a lot of like the heavy Southern meals, but like a nourishing, healthy California meal I can do very well. Yes. But yeah, those are all the things I've still been, but no, I can make like my Brussels sprouts, bang. Yeah, like truffle Brussels sprouts with a little bit of pomegranate.
Wow.
Period. My salmon, period. But those are like, that's like what I've did then and doing now.
Thank you, that was so good.
Amazing. Yeah. All right, last question. We're already over, so yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'll keep it short. So I really was intrigued by the idea of not selling a promise, but a philosophy. Like, that really spoke to me. Can you just speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah, again, I do want to contextualize. So I think there's like impulse-based purchase products versus more of like higher discerning-based products. What I've noticed in our industry is like, I'd say less than like $1,500. I really think it's probably about $1,000 now. That's more of an impulse-based purchase, meaning there's a lower level of perceived risk for somebody to make a buying decision on it. Anything I'd say above $2,500, $3,000, you are dealing with a more sophisticated buyer. They're using more discernment. There's higher perceived risk. So I do want to like contextualize that. When I think a program promise, when you are specifically when you're selling probably a digital product or a curriculum-based group offer, I feel like those are the best. They sell the best when there is some sort of tangible, this is the journey we are going to guide you on, versus, hey, I do group coaching. It's like, okay, where are you, like they're a hurt, like where are you leading them? That's to some sort of tangible promise. Like, well, you didn't change all your offers though.
Quit your job, hit 5 to 10K months.
Yeah, like that's a tangible outcome, usually attached with a specific vehicle that's going to facilitate that outcome. So like when I was selling services that sell back in the day, it was like, how do you sell a 4-figure offer with like live video and sales calls? Specific promise, specific vehicle, because there's millions of ways to do that thing, but specific vehicle. When I was selling my program Leverage, it was 18 grand, more sophisticated. The more you want to charge, I feel like the more you need to specialize the promise. Just like with medicine, a general physician is going to get paid less than a brain surgeon. There is a specialty. They're going to get paid more. You charge more, you specialize the promise. Leverage was transitioning your private one-on-one into a curriculum-based group delivery and selling that at like a $3,000 to $10,000 offer, make an extra 200 grand a year. Specific vehicle, specific promise. Selling one-on-one, I'm not, every client, there is a little bit of nuance. So when I'm selling more philosophy, I am qualifying based off of the identity of the buyer, because that is the thing that the variables don't really change. So most of my ideal clients, they sell, I'd say the 70% of their revenue comes from some high ticket offer. Most of my clients, they are primarily selling through organic content. That's evolving a little bit. I mean, I definitely have clients that run ads and sell lower ticket stuff. But I think that's very true for them. Like it's more of an identity-based approach, and they're more so buying into the philosophy of how I'm leading them, because there isn't necessarily like, hey, I want to get to this one outcome per se in private one-on-one. Yes, they do want results. And my philosophy is more on like identity-based messaging. It's not a promise, but that is a core philosophy that influences how I will guide and teach them and advise them. I specifically focus on lean team. How do you grow while maintaining as much profit? Most of my clients do not want teams of 10, 12, 15 people. You know, all my clients are 6 figures, multi-6 figures, 7 figures with a very lean team, contract-based team. That's a very different approach, you know? Like most of them are not selling at like sales conversion events as a way to generate leads. So I think, I'm like, what are the perspectives that I have that influence my philosophy around how to achieve this outcome? That is what my philosophy is anchored in. So it's still like specific, very like, if somebody's coming to me saying, hey, Jay, I want to specifically learn how to sell out my $10,000 offer with paid ads, I'd tell them to go to Claire. Like, that's just not that I don't have experience with ads or can't coach on it, but it's just most people don't want to learn how to get to that definition of success by way of that vehicle. So I think when I mean by philosophy, I mean by that, and I mean also based off of like values around how I will guide them, because anybody can get to success anyway, but most of my clients are doing it with part-time hours. So it's like, okay, yes, I could, like you go to Russell Brunson, you can grind your ass to get to whatever, but they're like, how do I do this with these constraints? And those constraints influence the philosophy of how I will advise them. So does that help distinguish the two for you?
Yeah, it sounds like the constraints can also be like preferences, values, like how they want to live their life, like how they want to achieve the promise, essentially.
Yeah. And I think too, at an identity layer, a lot of my clients are like accidental breadwinners. Okay. They never set out to retire their husband. Their business took off and they end up making more than their partner. That causes internal dynamic shifts. Many of my clients are, I'd say, like, they're also going through some sort of like reconciliation with their relationship with ambition. Another core identity marker that's contextualized to their experience. Like it's just like there's not like a, hey, here's this one promise and here's this curriculum that we teach and that's how you get there. but I still have to anchor on something to create some differentiation. So it's more, yeah, go ahead, you, Sarah.
I was just gonna ground this a little bit. Look at, she's being very specific with her ideal client. Like if you unpack what she's saying, she's being very specific about her ideal client, number one. Number two, she has like a core one, which is obviously like she's gonna help you like grow and sustain a business with significance, is like her messaging. But there's also many ones underneath, right? So like there's one main one, but I think with philosophy-based selling, there's also many messages underneath on how the main one is applied and achieved. And so also too, she knows their problems very, very specifically, and it's a main strategic one, but also holistic, like what we were talking about on the first day. There's holistic nature to what she's also talking about. The holistic nature is the philosophy as well.
I see.
Got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think we can confuse, and it's something that happens with clients all the time, the difference between who an ideal client is and who a qualified client is. They are not one and the same. Ideal is like, yes, this is a person that I could help. Qualified is like, what is that individual already coming to the table with when they start our relationship that I am best equipped to serve? And I think, all these different attributes that I'm laying out are qualifications of how like if I'm in a room, everybody in here want to make more money, everybody in here wants to grow their business. What are the qualifiers that I'd only have if everybody, like all you guys were quote unquote ideal? How do I dwindle that down through qualification where there'd only be 10 women still left? And I think that's another way to think about it. It's like, I help women with burnout. Okay, assume everybody in here is burnt out. I help women with ease. Assume everybody in here want that. Like, what else would you use, or how? Like, what other layers are true that you are not claiming about your most qualified lead that would only leave 10 people still standing? And that's just another way you can maybe think about it.
Yeah, no, you just gave me a lot to digest.
Okay.
I'm soaking it all in. That was really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jerisha Hawk, everybody. Amazing.